The Acura Integra nameplate is held in a very high regard. I think a lot of buyers right now, especially enthusiasts who were young in the 90s, are doing a lot of reminiscing. And Acura and Honda are doing their best job of creating a lot of nostalgia around their brands. Bringing back the Type R badge, the Type S badge, and now we have the Integra. A lot of buyers back in the 90s would purchase the Integra or Civic and they would modify it. They would personalize it, make it their own, and there would be a lot of aftermarket support. One thing I remember quite well living in the city is that all the enthusiasts in my area would buy the Integra or Civic and drag race up and down the parkway, which I do not recommend doing in 2022. That is not safe. Go to a track if that is something you really want to do. But in 2022, the Acura Integra takes on a whole different meaning, where it's not just a car that gives you a good amount of performance with the 1.5 liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine and also a manual transmission. It's also a car that's bordering on being premium as well. It's a step above the Civic Si. But one thing that I have learned today is that the Integra isn't just enthusiast oriented. It's a car that I think can draw in a lot of consumers looking for a car that's perfectly priced, but also one that gives you a good amount of practicality and fuel efficiency. So in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the 2023 Acura Integra, see how it compares to other rivals in this segment, such as the Audi A3 and BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, and also see why, if you're looking at buying a car priced between $30,000 and $40,000 that has all the intangibles and is also a great value, then maybe taking a look at the new Acura Integra might be a great decision. Now before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Ira Acura of Westwood in Westwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Acura inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Small luxury cars have had a tumultuous time in the US, as Americans have always had the mindset that bigger is better. On one hand, you have the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, which didn't last long on this side of the Atlantic. But then on the other, Audi has experienced success with the A3 and S3 for years. With Acura bringing back the Integra nameplate, this time it feels different, as not only does this car have a legendary lineage, but for 2023, this isn't your typical cheap and stripped down entry point into a luxury brand, as the Integra is not only utilizing a formidable chassis from Honda, but is providing the intangibles that speak to the hearts of consumers and enthusiasts in the early 2020s. Starting off with pricing, our model today is the A-Spec, coming in at just under $33,000. Which when compared to potential rivals such as the Audi A3 and BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, the Integra will undercut both, making it a more affordable option. In typical Acura fashion, this sporty compact outsizes all competitors, and in fact, its length of 186 inches and width of 72 inches is identical in size to the BMW 3 Series, and despite its sedan-like road presence, being a 5-door liftback will prove to be an exceptional choice when it pertains to practicality, as entry-level luxury cars like the Mercedes-Benz A-Class tend not to catch on here in the US because of their subcompact dimensions. Being built on the same platform as the Honda Civic, the road presence for the Integra will be similar to its cousin, and yet Acura was able to incorporate their own style and character into this car, creating the perception that it is in fact unique, at least for the outside. One minor touch that's found both up front and the rear is that the Integra badge is engraved in the bumpers, which just might be a first for any vehicle in the modern era. The LED headlight design, along with Acura's signature diamond cut grille, shows relation to the larger TLX, while at the same time giving this hatchback a classier and more upscale appearance compared to the Civic. What's also impressive is that there will be active air vents alongside the LED fog lights, and for an entry-level car for the lineup, the attention to detail is rather inspiring, as competitors traditionally tend to cut corners in this segment. Moving over to the side profile, our model is sitting on 18-inch alloy wheels, which comes standard for the A-Spec trim, whereas the base will be equipped with 17s. This leads us into the ride quality, and even with the bigger tire size, the Integra feels composed on roads with imperfections and potholes. And better yet, the suspension is pretty forgiving to offer a premium driving experience. You'll have body color folding side mirrors, which are heated, and you'll have blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, this is where we feel Acura did a tremendous job of turning a controversial rear fascia on the Civic into a sporty and eye-catching road presence for the Integra. The LED taillights flow seamlessly with the body lines, and rather than staring at the Integra from this angle thinking it looks awkward like the Civic hatchback, Acura's small car straddles the line between looking like a sedan and sportback. But also, even the dual exhaust outlets are naturally integrated into the design, rather than the cutouts in the bumper we see on its cousin. With this model being an A-Spec, a subtle deck lid spoiler is the perfect finishing touch on a car that makes a great first impression. Under the hood, all Integras will be powered by a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque, and you'll have the choice of going with a CVT or a 6-speed manual. Performance has always been a staple and selling point for the Integra, but even in the 90s, they were considered underpowered, and for 2023, not much has changed in that regard, as it will be competitive with an Audi A3 or BMW 228i Gran Coupe. But since Acura is the only brand offering a manual in this market, enthusiasts may feel compelled to choose this hatchback over rivals. Our model had the CVT, which did the job well, but expectations were kept to a minimum. However, if you're a fan of the platform and size of this car, and you prefer to not roll through the gears yourself, you'll find the Integra to be a fun daily driver. No surprises for 2023, as front-wheel drive will be the only drivetrain available. And for fuel economy, you're looking at right around 30 miles per gallon in the city, and 37 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, this is where the Integra for the most part resembles its cousin, as the dashboard design, button layout, center console, and user interface are all from Honda. While you do receive a full digital gauge cluster that is customizable, high quality, and easy to read, we do recommend paying a little extra for the A-Spec with the technology package to receive the larger 9-inch touchscreen, rather than the head unit that comes equipped on this model and the base trim if you opt for the CVT, as all Integras with the manual come standard with a 9-inch display. This package will also include a head-up display, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, dual-zone climate control, adaptive damper control, and micro-suede inserts for the seats. Speaking of the seats, the driver's side will be power adjustable, whereas passengers will have to manually find the ideal seating position. The leatherette upholstery does feel premium, and these front seats are heated to keep you warm during the winter. Unexpected was the quality of the leather-wrapped steering wheel, which complemented the driving experience, especially on roads with twists and turns. Returning to the head unit, functionality is limited, as you receive the basic necessities. There will be quick access buttons and physical knobs for the volume and tuning, but if you're searching for improved technology, without question, opt for that technology package. Looking at the center console, it's here where you'll find the drive mode selector and electric parking brake. And for the center storage compartment, you'll have enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in some natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this seat is adjusted pretty much all the way back and on a recline. And I still have a few inches of legroom to work with here. Now I am not the tallest person out there, I'm around 5'5". But compared to its closest rivals or the cars that it's going up against in its price range, such as the Audi A3, BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, I'd even throw in the Volkswagen GTI, and some automotive publications are even throwing in the Mazda 3 hatchback and also the Subaru WRX. This is, in my opinion, far more spacious, especially with this seat adjusted all the way back. the fact that I am not complaining, my knees are not hitting up against this seat here, that's pretty great to see. But also in typical Acura fashion, their small hatchback is significantly longer than all of its rivals, such as the A3 and 2 Series Gran Coupe. It's actually closer in size to a compact sedan. And because of that, I think you'll be able to fit average size adults back here, no problem, especially if the person in front of you is not 6 feet or above. This, I think, is really great to see. And also, even headroom isn't that bad at all. So I do think that if you're on the height of, 5'8" or 5'9", I don't think you'll be hitting your head on the headliner. Then, for the center seat, there are some decent placements for your feet. The center hump is somewhat aggressive, and that will take away from that legroom and also the shoulder room as well. Now, again, this is more of a compact car, so I wouldn't expect trying to squeeze in that third person. Probably wouldn't be very comfortable on a longer drive. Maybe for short trips, it might be able to work, but I think that if you're looking for something a bit more family friendly, you might want to go with the RDX or the TLX. And then on the driver's side, I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a good amount of legroom here. So I think that when it comes to fitting people in the second row, even for a car that would be categorized as being somewhat subcompact, this is really, I think, a great option if you are somebody looking for a car priced around $34,000, $35,000. You're not looking to break the bank, but you're also looking for a car that has the creature comforts and also a car that is economical. And I think that's exactly what the Acura Integra is really embodying for 2023. Not surprising me for the Acura Integra, and especially on this platform, considering what I've experienced from Honda over the last year or so, is that we do not get rear air vents. There's no 12-volt outlet or USB input, and no center armrest with 2 cup holders. You will have cup holders on the door panels, but that's it. And really, though, you don't really expect to receive all of that for a car of this size and in this price range. So I wouldn't really go too overboard with that. I wouldn't really overreact to it, although I would love to see a 12-volt outlet or a USB input make its way on this car in the future. Now, coming around to the back, of course, you're not going to get a power liftgate with the Acura Integra being a hatchback. However, you are going to receive close to 24.5 cubic feet of rear cargo space behind the second row seats. That is right, you did not hear me incorrectly. 24.5 cubic feet. That's around the same size as the Honda HR-V. This is crossover territory amounts of practicality. This blows away all competition in this segment by a mile. I mean, we're talking even the Volkswagen GTI, which has around 18 cubic feet of room. So it has 6 cubic feet more. So you'll be able to fit all your items back here with no problem. It's very deep as well. So I was able to fit all my camera gear today and then some. That's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And I think that if you are going on a road trip with a significant other or a couple family members, you can definitely do so. For a car of this size, this is really fantastic and phenomenal to see, because Acura is still focused on what the Integra was all about. Sure, it had performance, but it was also economical and it was practical. And that's exactly what the 2023 model is. Then with the second row seats full, you can have even more space. So if you don't have anybody in the second row, you can now fit longer items. You can now fit, I'd say, even maybe a small table or some furniture, no problem. And that right there is why I feel the Acura Integra, even with just 200 horsepower, this car will definitely appeal to not only enthusiasts, but also consumers looking for a car in this price range. Also on the left side of the rear cargo area, you will have some netting for some smaller items, such as car detailing equipment or a first aid kit. Also, what I like too is that you do have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear and you don't want anyone peeking in and seeing what you have, this will give you that reassurance. And then once you're done, just grab onto the handle and close the hatch. So we are now behind the wheel of the 2023 Acura Integra. As I mentioned earlier on in this video, we do not have the manual transmission. That's mostly due to the fact that they're very rare to find right now, and every single one that does arrive at dealers tends to sell within the first 12 to 24 hours. Now, I am starting off in sport mode. I think sport mode is really key for this hatchback heading into this market, because the Mercedes-Benz A-Class is no longer offered here in the US, or at least it's going to be removed from the lineup after this year. But then you look at the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, also the Audi A3, and I think you could throw in the Volkswagen GTI, mostly due to the fact that it's all pricing right now, where the GTI did go a little more upscale, where now you have a price range closer to $30,000 to $40,000, and that's exactly where the Acura Integra falls into line. Now, I think a lot of people could look at the Integra as being a more classier and more luxurious Honda Civic Si, and I don't think you would be completely wrong there. The one thing, though, that I think Acura has going for them is, one, you have the nostalgia talking, so you have the Integra badge. Everyone wants to see that. Then there's also a lot of anticipation for the Type S badge to make its way onto this model, though Acura has been very quiet on that. They're not really going to say too much, which I think it would be very beneficial for this vehicle moving forward, just because I don't think that 200 horsepower is enough to really get people excited, at least at this price point, especially since you do have the Civic Si. However, since this model does have a CVT, and I have seen CVTs fly off the inventories around here at local Acura dealers, there's a lot of reasons why you should go with the Integra. One is practicality. So you have the hatchback, but also you have a lot of rear legroom as well. This car, for its size and for its price point, is rather practical and dailyable, where if you do have a family, you can fit the kids in the back. You can also have your friends tag along. And you really don't see that for a lot of subcompact luxury sports cars or luxury cars. And the Integra is really changing the game in that regard. Now, I am starting off in sport mode. I think it's really important for Acura to nail this drive mode, mostly because of the competition it's going up against. And also, of course, for enthusiasts, they want to have a car that is affordable, that is economical, and especially right now in 2022, we want to see that. But you also want to have more of a fun and athletic driving experience as well. And what I'm really loving about this car is that steering input is decently weighted, and also it's very well balanced. So it's not loose, it's not light, it's not like the Honda Civic I reviewed last year. This actually gives me a lot of confidence, but also it's really getting me excited behind the wheel that I can throw this car around, and we'll get into that in a few minutes when I get to some of the back roads around here. But I love the way the suspension is, I love the way that the steering feel is, and this is exactly what Acura needs, especially right off the bat, and for a car that doesn't have the Type S badge. Now, when it comes to road noise and when it comes to going over the bumps, you do feel them, but the suspension is very forgiving. Outside world noise, really not entering the cabin at all, so you do feel as though you are in a small luxury car. Now, even though I think the 200 horsepower isn't overwhelming, isn't eye-opening, isn't something that you're really going to get super excited about with the CVT, it is comparable and competitive with the Audi A3. Now, I do think, though, that technology-wise, the Integra will fall behind, especially in the trim that we have right now, where it's not as in-depth, although I do love the design of the full digital gauge cluster. Now, of course, with this car being marketed as a luxury hatchback, it's very comfortable in here. I love the seats. They provide a decent amount of support. They're not aggressively bolstered, though, which, if you are somebody that is focused on more of an aggressive driving experience and wants to go on spirited drives, you might sway a bit depending on your body frame. But it does feel very peppy, and also I like too is that the CVT is not droning. It does mimic the gear shifts quite well, and that's one thing that I'm really glad to see that Honda is focusing on, where they have retooled the CVT to have it run smoother, to make it feel as though you are driving a traditional automatic. Now, also, we do have paddle shifters as well, which I will engage in a few minutes. Now, when it comes to front vision, you do have plenty of it. A-pillars are super thin. Love to see that. A lot of cars do have very thick A-pillars right now for safety, and that will cause some blind spots, but here, not bad at all. Then side mirrors. Love the size of them. I can't see everything that is in my blind spots. And then looking out back, with this being a hatchback, the rear headrests are going to get in the way a bit. So rear visibility isn't as great as we will see with, say, more traditional hatchbacks and also smaller sedans. Now, within the first 15 minutes, what I am noticing about the Integra is that it's very compliant. That does exactly what you want it to do. So let's see how it performs on this little back road here. Some body roll, but I love the steering input. It's nicely weighted, provides a lot of confidence, and the suspension is rigid as well. So you can throw it around, and I can only imagine how much fun this would be with the manual transmission. It's exactly what I want to see. What I also like too is that the leather-wrapped steering wheel feels very nice in the hands with aggressive, I wouldn't call this 10 and 2, more closer to 9 and 3 positions. And it really gives you the ability to have a lot of fun on back roads. I'm still going to say that the suspension does give you a bit more leeway, where it's still more towards comfort. It's not all-out aggression, which is why I do feel as though there will be a Type S at some point down the road. Looking at what Acura has done over the last year and a half with the TLX and MDX, I can only assume that we are going to have a Type S at some point, but this is a great entry point, especially at its price range. While I do think that a lot of buyers will go with the manual transmission, with the Integra being an enthusiast car first and foremost, because this hatchback is not only practical but fuel efficient as well, I can definitely see this draw in a lot of buyers who maybe can't find a Honda Civic right now. I think the first year or so for the Integra is going to be crucial, where if Acura can pump these out and get these to customers, it's possible that buyers will spend the extra money to get a car immediately. One thing I haven't really got into at all in this video is the interior comfort, but also the refinement as well. Honda and Acura have done wonders for their entire lineup, where they've focused on giving you more of a softer touch material for the dashboard and also the armrests, but also the interior layouts as well have become far more upscale, whether they are wearing the Honda or Acura badge. I love the full digital gauge cluster. I also love the interior layout as well. You can definitely tell it is inspired by the Honda Civic, especially with this grille design for the vents. But I think that it's a bit more comfortable than the Honda Civic, especially with these seats. So as I get on the highway here, I am going to use the paddles. Quick shifting. I'm a bit surprised there. Not too bad at all. Gets on the highway pretty quickly. You can definitely pass slower drivers. So even with the CVT and only 200 horsepower, it does its job quite well. Feels very composed on the road. And at highway speeds, road noise isn't too bad. I think a lot of the road noise is coming from the tires. It's not coming from the insulation or the interior itself. I think it's mostly the tires that I'm hearing this road noise from. As I said before, very compliant. It doesn't really lag at highway speeds or really even from a dig. I mean, I think this can definitely be your fun daily, whether it does have a CVT or a manual. Let's downshift one more time. Not bad. Not bad at all. Pretty nice. Very nice. Love the brake feel. It does slot into place as being the baby TLX, or really the nice affordable car in the Acura lineup. Now again, I think with it having a CVT, expectations are going to be not so high. I think a lot of people are definitely going to go with that manual. But if you're somebody that maybe can't find a Honda Civic right now at a dealership, and you love the car, you love the platform, and you also have some extra money to spend where you can maybe upgrade to the Acura Integra, I think you're going to like the Integra, mostly because that it does feel a bit more upscale. It feels very classy, very well refined. Also, of course, because it is a hatchback, you're going to have the ability to fit all your items in the back. And also, I think you have enough room where you can have people in the second row, average size adults, and also kids. So it's a car that I think a lot of buyers are certainly going to love. I think that this is really a great stepping stone for them. And really, we can only hope that we do get a Type S. And man, if we can get a Type S and also get a true automatic like we see with the TLX and MDX, this car could do quite well for itself, especially at its price point. So in closing, after spending a good amount of time with the 2023 Acura Integra with the CVT, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this little hatchback? Well, let's first start off with the driving dynamics, because with the CVT, your expectations are going to be limited. It's not going to be as enthusiast focused, and it won't be as enjoyable without that manual transmission. However, if you are somebody that is looking to buy a car at this price point, you love the practicality, you love the fuel economy, you're also looking for a car that is also fun and engaging, I think the CVT does a good enough job where you're not dealing with the droning. Also, it mimics the gear shifts quite well, especially when you put it into manual mode where you can use the paddle shifters. But what I love the most about this car is the handling and cornering ability. The tighter steering that gives you a good amount of weight and feedback, but also even the suspension that's forgiving yet somewhat rigid, really kept me surprised and on edge a bit, where I wasn't expecting the Integra to be that enjoyable or to be that playful, and yet it is. Then when it comes to performance, I understand that in straight line speed, not the quickest car out there, but getting on the highway and also passing slower drivers, this car does the job quite well. Then when it comes to the interior, I find these seats to be rather comfortable. Also, I do love the wide center console, and the button layout is very easy to use. But I do recommend paying a little extra for the A-Spec with the technology package, just so you get the 9-inch touchscreen, which gives you better functionality, but also dual zone climate control. But it is to be expected that for a car in this price range, you're not going to get all the bells and whistles. But my main takeaway for this review is just how spacious the interior is, where you can fit average size adults in the second row, but also that practicality that goes hand in hand with the fuel economy. And I still think even with the 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, this car is a great package, and I can definitely see why, whether it does have the CVT or the manual, it's very rare to find these, and that when they do arrive at dealers, they're gone within a couple of days, just because it gives you everything you're looking for if you are a consumer that is just looking for a great daily driver that is fun, that is affordable, and also gives you all the intangibles that you're looking for in 2022. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.